Okay, so let's talk about your sensor, whether it's a cropped sensor or a full sensor, and what the heck is crop factor. So, this is a very technical topic, and you don't need to know the ins and outs. You do not need to know the physics of this if you don't want to. I'm going to link down below a very technical video that I think is useful to watch, but it's totally optional. If you would like to understand this better, certainly watch it. Here's very basic information, okay? This is just what you need to know to kind of get by. Basically, if you're shooting a full frame camera, which my camera is full frame, what you see through the viewfinder is what you get in the picture that you take. In a crop sensor camera, what you see and what you get are two different things. So what that means is that on a crop sensor camera, when you look through the viewfinder, you see the picture. When you take the picture, you get a cropped version of what you see. That's called crop factor. So basically, if you're shooting a cropped sensor, you're going to get some crop on the sides of what you are seeing through the viewfinder. It also means that your lens is exactly what it says it is on a full frame camera. For example, this is a 50mm lens. When I put my camera up to my eye on this full frame camera with the 50mm lens on it, take a picture, what I see is what I get, and this lens is exactly a 50mm lens. Side note, a 50mm lens is approximately what we see, what our perspective from our human eye is. So it's a great lens for just capturing what real life looks like. It's not more zoomed in or more zoomed out than what your naked eye is seeing. That same lens on a cropped sensor is going to be a more zoomed in version of itself. This is just an example. Full frame is kind of like, or is exactly like 35mm film. And these are the different crop sensor settings that you might run into. And they're different sizes within a full frame. And if you want to get really technical, crop factor is actually the size of your camera sensor as it relates to the standard 35mm size. So film being 35mm for so long, that became the standard size for a camera, and therefore full frame means equivalent to 35mm, and your crop factor is going to be the size of your sensor as it relates to full frame. Like I said, the physics of this is mathy and lots of numbers. If you want to understand it better, watch the video down below. It is not essential to your education and to functioning to making your camera work properly to understand this inside and out, but it is a good thing to have a general working knowledge of, because as we talk about lenses in the next lesson, you're going to want to know what lenses work best with your camera. You're going to want to make smart investments that will grow with you if you plan to go from a crop sensor to a full sensor eventually. And we're just going to talk about that more in the lenses, but it's important to know whether your camera has a crop or a full sensor. Most entry-level digital SLR cameras do have a crop sensor. And then the mid to upper range are typically full frame. So just figure out what your sensor is. It's really good to know, and you'll learn a little bit more about that as we talk about lenses in the next